Before I start, I mean, let's make it a little relaxed this Sunday afternoon, and I want to make it as interactive. I know I can't see anybody else other than our dear friend on the screen beside me, but I'm sure with all of you listening out there, just few questions, and I want you to just answer at your own space and your own time where you are now, without any stress. And I'm also be thinking that you're going to be answering in your space, knowing that things are being answered. So let me start with a few questions like, hey, how many of you think franchising is a quick, rich scheme? Like you just come and become quick, rich, basically in franchising. All right. Okay. Thinking that somebody is saying yes and somebody is saying no. Let me move on to my next question. Like, how many of you want to build a legacy for your brand, which you have started, which you founded, or which you're working on as a franchise? You want to build a legacy with that.
Most of the visitors are replying yes.
Yes, fantastic. Thanks so much for giving me that feedback. And how many of you would like to build a legacy as your personal brand, like not just as any company, but you as me as Sri Rathi, you as say anyone XYZ, Deenal Bhai or Deenal Bhai. You want to build your personal brand. How many of you would like to do that? Build a legacy of your personal brand, right? And how many of you think you know everything about franchising and brand building? So if you know that, please drop in your name, contact details. I would like to connect with you and do a one-to-one because I don't know everything. I just have some experience over the last 21 years, which I want to share. But I'm sure if someone is there who knows everything, I would look forward to connect and know more. And how many of you are open to learn about branding from a franchising perspective? All right. So I see a lot of you. If you're saying yes, then you're in the right place, right Zoom room. If not, probably you're not in the right Zoom room. Maybe you can enjoy your Saturday and Sunday afternoon. I'm not going to be promising you stars and moon on franchising and branding in the next 20-30 minutes. There's only so much you could share. What we're going to do is to touch on some simple concepts which you may feel you know it already. All right. The key is not about knowing. The key is about how much you have implemented. And what I have learned in my life is reading and going through the simple basic concepts again and again helps you and connects with you. And you may find that over this next 20 minutes, there could be just one point which you want to take away and implement in your business and make your brand as the most successful brand in the world of franchising. If you can do that, I would believe that the next 20-30 minutes of yours and mine are really worth it. Are you all with me on that? Shall we start?
Yes.
Okay, and my promise to you, before I start again, I want to say thank you to each one of you to be here on the Sunday afternoon. You could have decided to spend this time in many, many different ways, being 1st August, celebrate time with friends, family, and especially it's a friendship day today. So probably spend time more with your friends, but you decided to spend your precious time listening this afternoon to me, what I'm sharing. And I promise you, by end of this session, you would be able to see some phenomenal 3 basic foundational elements which will help you to have your brand as a legacy brand in the world of franchising. Now, I'm going to share a little bit more about me and my purpose because it's important, right? We as people connect with each other, not just on what we do each other and what we share, our journey and my experience. So I want to share a little bit about it. And in my 21 years of career, I've worked, studied, lived in 3 different countries, the UK, UAE, and India, both as a professional and as an entrepreneur, and privileged of playing a role of both as a franchisee and as franchisor. So in the last 3.5 years, I played the role of as a franchisor, and prior to that, I've run businesses as a franchisee for multiple brands. So I had a pleasure of working with really some phenomenal brands. Like, for example, Rolls-Royce. Obviously, it's not a franchising brand, but that's a brand to reckon with, and I had an opportunity to do a consulting role with them. But in terms of franchising, I got an opportunity to work as a franchisee for a brand called Raymond's. It's a large textile brand. I'm sure most of you are aware of it. We have chain of stores. We have wholesale distribution as a family business. Been there probably since I was born, as I remember, as I recollect. And that's the kind of association we have been having with this particular brand for so many years. And in my current role with Corporate Connections, I had a privilege of seeing this from a more global scale as a franchisor, working with franchisees across the world. So when I started with my role in Corporate Connections way back in 2018, we just started off. In fact, there was no foundation, there was no groundwork, and I had the opportunity to be involved in setting the foundational work for this brand. And with no presence across in India, today, at the end of 3.5 years, we are present in eight cities across the country and more counting on. And we have close to about 175 members across India. And my privilege of working when we started, we were present in hardly 5 to 7 countries, and today we are in 17 countries altogether across the world. And I get to work with the global team and the global franchisees around the world. And a little bit more about me as an individual personally. I was born in a 500 square feet chawl with 8 people living in that chawl in a traditional Marwadi family. And what that really taught me was the importance of relationships and support at a very early age in my life. All right. And I've seen my father work extremely hard in spite of multiple physical disabilities and surgeries he went through on his body. All that was to ensure that we as kids have great life. And thanks to him, we are having a wonderful life. Now, and he was a true fighter. But by the time he could enjoy the fruits of his labor, we lost him at the age of 53 for a very unique cancer. But he impacted many people around him, maybe hundreds of people around him in his journey with a very strong purpose. His strong purpose was to build relationships, help and support people, and build relationships with people of different age groups. And now I want to carry his legacy and following that passion and footsteps of what my father built on, of helping entrepreneurs have a purpose-driven business and life through Corporate Connections. And I want to help these entrepreneurs also build meaningful relationships around them, because that's your biggest asset investment for an entrepreneur in times to come. So what is franchising? Franchising is also all about trust and relationships, right? So with that, I'm just going to jump in and share my screen. And we're going to look into 3 P's of building franchising brands. Now, trust is the cornerstone of a franchising brand. And that's where I'm coming from. So recently, last week, I was listening to Stephen Covey. I don't know if many of you have heard of him. He's an author of book Speed of Trust. And he was saying, trust is the new currency which we all have to look up to. So if you have that trust, no matter where you are as an individual, with your own self, with family, with the community, with the business, and that's going to be the currency which is going to be helping you. So coming back to franchising, and there are multiple moving pieces of franchising, right? And we may think franchising is like a sprint, like the first question which I asked. How many of you think it's a quick rich scheme? If you are, then I'm sorry to say you're in the wrong state of mind. It's not a quick rich scheme. And I would just say that don't just commit to a sprint, but commit to a marathon when you think about franchising. All right? And as a franchising, there are multiple goals in franchising, like expansion, building your brand, having a more market share, enabling operations, innovations, personal aspirations. So these are various franchising goals which you could be having. What I'm going to be touching on today is building a brand. So how to build a franchise brand, basically. And what we see as a franchise brand, like all the big brands we talk about, McDonald's, right, KFC, all the big brands across the world which we see, we just see the tip of the iceberg. What are the key foundational elements which are enabling them to have such a brand? Is one, the purpose what I shared, my story. Similarly, you as a franchisee, you have your own story. And that is so important that you are conveying your story through your business, through your brand, what you're building. And second is people. So people, make a very important element. You just don't, it's not enough that you have passion and purpose around it, but people who can drive this purpose ahead with process to ensure that you are moving in the right direction at a much faster pace, and control the pace at which you want by having the right processes you have. So are you all good with this? 3 P's we are going to look in today. How do you build a franchise brand using these 3 foundational elements? And there's a beautiful quote by Richard Branson where he says that the brands that will thrive in the coming years are the ones that have a purpose beyond profit. I've spoken to so many entrepreneurs in the last years, and when I ask them, what's your purpose in what you're doing? It is either more money, more profits, more growth, which is fantastic, right? To run a business, that's brilliant. But to build a brand, you need to have a strong purpose. So you need to make that choice of ensuring that you are thriving on the purpose and not just on profits. So what does purpose do to your brand? It basically helps to build, it creates an emotional connect with every stakeholder in the business, whether it is your franchisee, whether it is you as a franchisor, and vice versa. Whether a franchisee has a purpose, it helps you to create an emotional connect with your end consumers, suppliers, in all the stakeholders. So when we talk about purpose and the why behind whatever we are doing, I'm sure most of you resonate with this brand, right? All of us. I would be really shocked if someone says he or she does not resonate with this brand. Yes, it's Apple. And there's a beautiful book called by Simon Sinek, Start With Why. If you have heard it, that's good. If you have read that book, it's brilliant. If you have not read that book, please read that book. It's an amazing book about trying to see your purpose, your why. And they really talk about this particular brand, Apple, how the foundational element for this brand is to start with why and not about what you're doing. Most of us as business owners, leaders, brand founders focus on what we do. Instead of that, if we focus on why we're doing, the purpose behind why we're doing is will give a great boost. And let's see what is anybody aware of the purpose for Apple? If you have, please put in the chat box so that everybody else can see that. I'm sorry I'm not able to see anything on the chat box, but just for the benefit of people who are also sharing and seeing this session along with you, please do share in the comment box. And I'm going to give a second. So what is the purpose of Apple? It's very simple. The purpose is we think differently, thereby challenging the status quo. So everything what they started as from a Macintosh to now into mobile and pods and TVs, Apple TVs, and they're going to be probably, I'm sure, in Apple cars and things like that. So everything is based on the purpose, to think differently and challenge the status quo. So you need to, as a brand founders, you need to have your own purpose. But why purpose? What does purpose do to your business? The first and foremost, it becomes the northern star, the guiding light for you and your brand as a company in direction it has to go. If you have a very strong purpose, it gives you the right direction, especially with things happening around the last few months and a year and a half. It's been devastating. But if you have the right purpose for your brand, you can pivot and ensure that you are going in the right direction. You can change, build on, based on your purpose. For example, we as a brand, Corporate Connections, we are a global premier community of successful, like-minded leaders, and our purpose is to connect these leaders around the world for opportunities, and not just in the business but in communities and lives. And we were primarily based on face-to-face meetings. We have 20 meetings a year, and all these meetings used to be face-to-face meetings before this pandemic strike. come March 2020, when we just knew early signs of pandemic somewhere in the south, in the eastern part of the world, we did a pivot, and we still followed our purpose, but ensured that members still stayed connected. Members were able to create opportunities and have that meaningful change in their communities' lives and as their businesses as well, by moving everything into a virtual mode. Obviously, it sounds very simple moving into virtual mode, but yes, it was a big shift for our members, for us. So it was all possible only because we had a very clear purpose, what we wanted to do. The second one, I mean, if you have a purpose, if you are in the same, say for example, you're in food business in a fast food chain, and you have another fast food chain coming next to you, or somewhere in the same locality, or the brand which is equally growing as you are growing, what differentiate your brand over the other, apart from the colors, the look and feel? It is your purpose with which what you're driving. That will be the differentiating factor. That will show up to the end consumer as well. The third one, you would be attracting the right clients when you are a purpose-driven brand. How is that possible? So last year, I was listening to a marketing guru called Seth Godin. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of him. He's a marketing guru, published hundreds of books around the world. And every time he publishes it, not just in one language, English, but many languages, and published in probably across the world, 50 and 100 countries around the world, where his books are published and distributed. Now, the key which shocked me was, he said, every time a book gets published and gets circulated in any specific country, he's very happy even if he gets just 2% of the population attracted to his book, or reading this book, or picked up, a book gets picked up in a bookstore or online. 2% of the population. I was like, wow, 2%? He's like, yes. It is not necessary that you and your brand are going to take care of 100% of the market where you are. But when you are a purpose-driven, like he's created a niche for himself in terms of his genre, and there are a certain number of people, and he's happy with that. Seth got it. And similarly, we as a brand, when we are purpose-driven, there will be set number of clients whom you are targeting, and they will be attracted based on the purpose what you're driving. Are we good with that? And an interesting fact, where they say 63% of the consumers prefer to purchase from purpose-driven brands. Now that's a huge number, huh? And it is changing with the times. As more we have millennials and the next generation, the next X, they're all looking in what is the purpose behind this brand, what they are achieving, how they are contributing to the society. So having a very strong purpose really makes a huge impact to the brand. Now, how do we build this purpose-driven brand, you could ask me? The first thing I would say is build or have a clarity in what your purpose is as an individual or as a brand. You need help, ask for it. Go ask for help, whom you can talk, share, discuss, and arrive at what your individual purpose or what your brand purpose is. If you already have one, fantastic. That's great. So what do we do next once we have a brand? Weave into your business. To give a simple example, if you are going to, say for example, recruiting, in your recruitment process, whether it is employees, whether it is franchisees, or you as a franchisee looking in for a franchisor, weave into your business in whatever you're doing with your purpose. See through that you're absolutely aligned with the purpose what you are looking at, whether the purpose of a person who's joining or as a franchisee who's joining. So after weaving into every aspect, not just in recruitment, but every aspect of your business, making a creative storytelling about your purpose. I think no other brand other than Apple who really does a phenomenal job about really creative storytelling. And I think Amul, local brand, also does a great way of telling the stories around and still being connected. The taste of India, right? And they keep sharing about this particular brand constantly. So creative storytelling is so important, and it's all driven from the purpose where you are coming from. how you can align it with the storytelling. The next is consistency in your sharing. Now, the same example of Amul, for how many years we have been seeing, right? Consistently, no change. It's not that tomorrow we have a different ad agency, let's change completely and let's have a different purpose or a different way of communicating. No. So, it's how consistently you're able to share your purpose through different mediums, through different ways, internally, externally, is going to make huge impact to create that brand, what you're looking in franchising. Obviously, nothing is possible if you don't take action, right? If you don't take action, you're not going to see anything. So let me throw, before we move on to the next, one last example on purpose itself. So how many of you heard of Fab India? If you have, that's great. If you have not, please do try. And probably if in your city, if you don't have, then you have an opening for a franchisee of Fab India in your place.
I think most would have heard, sir.
Absolutely, most would have. That's what even I assume, and that's why I have that brand here. So Fab India, when they started, their tagline was celebrating India, and later they moved on to serving India, more aligned to their purpose. Their purpose has not changed, and if you just see, the founder of this brand is John Bissell. He's an American who was on a transition for a short period in India from Ford, and then he fell in love. But what his purpose behind starting Fab India and being in India and starting this was to ensure the welfare of Indian artisans and on making this traditional Indian handicraft products an essential part of people's lives. Now that's their purpose. And with that purpose, they have been absolutely amazingly successful. I purchase all my ethnic wear from Fab India. I mean, first name which resonates. And primarily, I didn't know their purpose before, but you get into the store, you feel, you talk, you see the product, everything resonates now when I connect the dots. It is like, wow, this is awesome. And they currently operate 327 stores in 118 cities and with 14 international stores as well. And maybe this is going up. But a great example to ensure that how a purpose-driven brand can completely, they can weave into their entire business, they can share creative stories and ensure that they're taking action on those elements which will help them to have a purpose-driven brand. So here we end with the first section, which is purpose. So if any of you had an aha moment or a bulb on moment and felt that, wow, I never thought about this, or you thought about it, but you feel, yes, this is something which I've not implemented and you want to implement. So I want to take like 10 seconds for you to note down one element which you have taken in the last 10-15 minutes from what I've shared into your business. 10 seconds. What you are going to take back and implement. And if you want to share in the chat box, please do share for others to benefit out of that. And also to, when you share with people, it is a great feeling, right? Awesome.
One of the visitors is saying creative process. Probably what he means is like the way the owner of Fab India has presented, like the welfare of artisans and, you know, making traditional Indian handicrafts. So probably that is what he's saying. He'll publish or put forth his purpose like creatively, the way Fab India has done.
Wow. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. Truly appreciate it, and how you can be creative in sharing stories as well.
And then another one is saying a good tagline.
Yeah, a good tagline connected with your purpose. Again, it should communicate to your purpose. Like, for example, for Corporate Connection, it is where leaders connect.
Yes.
And that's our purpose, to connect the leaders around the world. So try and ensure that your tagline is connected to your purpose. It should resonate with you as an individual, as a founder, and as a franchisee.
Right.
Moving on, and before we jump on to the other one, the next part is a beautiful quote by Henry, where he says, what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals. So it's the journey which is so important in this path towards making our franchising brand like a legacy brand. the journey is more important. It teaches us so many things as a brand as well. And it's important that we celebrate. We don't wait for that the moment that this brand is arrived, but at every milestone, making it a big success, a celebration, and with the people with that, right? From the person who you just started, and celebrating with those people on a consistent basis with every milestone is so important. The journey is so important than the goal itself. So that helps you to move on to the next section, which talks about people. Now, if purpose is the engine, I would say people is the fuel of the brand. Okay? If there's no fuel, engine, no matter how good your purpose is, how good your engine is, you're not able to move. So, whether you as a franchisor, the people at franchisor, as a leader who you are, who is the founder of the brand, the franchisee, again, the partner or the trust, the relationship what you have, franchisor and a franchisee, even a franchisee, the right person who is equally passionate and focused, all of you together focused on the end consumer, customer, is so important to build that brand. Because people buy people first and then buy a brand. People buy people first, then buy a brand. All right? So it's so important, the second P, which is people. And we're going to see from a franchisor perspective, what are the key elements which we need to look in from for people angle. The first one is selection of the right franchisee. Now, you have many aspects to look into your founding franchisees, like somebody who's able to manage, recruit, train people, local influence, who's highly engaged, financial ability, recruitment, all that is great. You would be also looking into skills before you hire a franchisee, like who has been involved in the process of hiring, training, and managing people. If that particular skill is missing, for example, if you're running a food chain, a food franchisee, it's a people-oriented, people-driven franchisee. So when you select a franchisee for that, ensuring that they have the experience, whoever the prospective franchisees, as the experience of hiring, training, and managing people. If you don't have that skill, no matter how good the person is and how well they are aligned with their purpose, difficult. The other problem in franchising is basically starts with a bad selection. So if you have a bad selection of a franchisee, this could really kill the brand itself in the place where you are. So, and it's all about relationships, right? It's the first I highlighted, franchisor and a franchisee relationship. You just can't make and break. It is a long-term thing which you look at. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint which you look at. So ensuring that you select the right franchisee, it is very important. For example, in early stage franchising, ensure that the franchisees are absolutely passionate, committed, and involved, and take a pride at something which is close to their heart. And that's how you would ensure that you have the right person, the right franchisee. Training a franchisee, having the right training structure, training people in terms of the brand, what it is. So as the product life cycle is coming down, it leads to the third element, which is innovation. Ensuring that constantly there is a right team as a founder involved in constantly innovating product. And the fourth is having the right team. Now, when I say team, having the right operations team, having the right marketing, branding, training, a team which ensures that it's not a single man thing which will help. Having the right team makes a huge difference. And the last and the most important thing is about relationships. So building deep relationships in the initial stages when you start up the franchising is so important. So in my experience, I've heard a brand where they ensure that every new franchisee being selected, they used to be flown down to the place where the founder is, ensure that they spend 24 hours at least with the founder, have a meal together in their house, know each other so well. Building those relationships becomes so important from a franchisor perspective, because they are the caretakers of your brand. And if they are able to resonate, understand, relate, connect with the purpose, with your passion for this particular brand, what you're building, it makes a huge difference in building that brand, what we're doing. So they found that franchisees with the right personality can reach profitability 33% quicker than those without the right personality. Now, I just want to have a quote. I mean, my personal belief, especially when we're talking about building trusted relationships in building a brand, is positive intent and effective communication is the key for trusted relationships. So it is having the right intent and also communicating, having an effective communication of that intent helps you to be right relationships. From a franchisee perspective, obviously, the franchisee, you need to be driven by passion to be connected with what you're really interested in, and that alignment with the purpose of the brand, what you are taking up. When you're selecting which brand to go with, while you're selecting which franchisee should I select, you should be driven by the passion and not just that you want to be rich or grow. You need to see how passionate you are about that particular field and does it align with your purpose, what you have as an individual. And third, be open to learn. I mean, no person can say I've learned everything and anything in this world. No matter how many years of experience you have, when you take a new franchisee or when you are an existing franchisee for 3-5 years, still be open to learn from your peers, from the new franchisees who are coming, from the franchisor, from the people around, from the consumers. So staying connected and being open to learn is important for you. How agile you are with the changing times is so important. And the last is obviously have a team. Having the right team at your end and starting without an operation team is a killer. So have a right operations team when you start off franchising or when in the process of franchising. Ensure that you have the right team. And there is a research which says that getting the people side of your business right, franchisees were able to meet tactical short-term goals while maintaining their strategic vision. So is there any business or any franchise where you say, I don't want to have any problem, right? I just want right brand where it goes so smoothly without any problems. I think we will be sorry to even expect that when you're taking up or when you're running any franchise business. You should expect problems will be there, but just eat them for breakfast. Face on, head on whatever the problems are, and you will be fine. So there is no brand, franchise business where you will say that there's no problem. Managing a fast food franchise won't always be a smooth sailing, right? If you decide to turn your problems into solutions, you will be better off. So with that, it helps us to move to have the process, because if you have the right process, you're able to face any problem head on. And before I move on to process, just want to touch on 3 important elements of franchising. The franchising business is such that it should be scalable. If the business is not scalable, franchising is not going to work. It should be reproducible, and eventually it will be helping you to be profitable. Now, the 2 important elements, the scalability and the reproducibility, are the key elements which helps you, where the processes helps you to have this. If you have the right processes, it helps you to be scalable. If you have the right processes, you will be able to reproduce whatever, no matter how many branches you have, no matter, like, for example, because process is all about creating that consistency in your quality, right? Now, imagine going into a Subway store, one of the most successful franchisee in the world today. The look, feel, everything is standard. The way they operate, you have the veg, non-veg, the breads, what they offer. It's all standardized there. There's a set of process which is involved, what we are able to see, but there are a whole set of process behind to train these people to ensure that there is consistency in quality and in also deliverables is maintained. And that's what makes a franchising brand really successful. The other brand is McDonald's. This is I was fascinated. This is the first McDonald's store ever opened in the US. And their logo was completely different when they started. It's converted into a museum now. But again, these are the 2 highly successful franchisees in the world, and the key important element is processes. When I worked basically in some of the brands initially in India, as a franchisee, I've never seen any operations manual. So that leads to the next aspect of processes. And if franchisees don't define the details clearly, then the franchisees will define their own. So if you as a franchisor don't define the details clearly, franchisees will define their own. And what I mean by defining clearly is some of those 5 to 6 elements. The first element which I'm going to talk about is having manuals. And this is where I was sharing my experience about working with a brand as a franchisee. I hardly saw any manuals. Today, when I, as a franchisor, work with a multinational organization where I'm able to see how clearly manuals play such a huge role if you really want to expand and be scalable, be reproducible. And those manuals, it can be, manuals can be from different manuals, operations manual, franchisee manual, your different branding manuals could be there. So the manuals can be completely like technical manual. You could have customer acquisition and retention manual. So ensuring that you have the right manuals. If you're someone who's into the franchising business, if you don't have manuals as a franchisor, if you have not provided, or as a franchisee you don't have an access, go and ask for it, because that is what ensures a brand is being scalable and reproduce the same kind of experience, same kind of quality, no matter which store you go, no matter where you go, what experience you have. It is standardized. Second is technology. How well we could utilize technology to capture the data, analyze the data, share the data with the entire system in your franchise network. As a franchisor, if you have the right technology platform which is able to capture data and analyze the data and be showing a predictive analysis about and be proactive in the next steps, what you're going to see based on the trends, based on the data what you have. And all this is possible when you have the right technology in place. And I think going forward, more and more insistence on technology is going to be so important as a process what you set in. It's not a joke. Third is training. What processes do you have for training? As soon as you hire a franchisee, they're onboarding, they're training on the various aspects of business, training the people on to level of what extent of standardization you want at your franchisees end. So ensuring that there is a right process set in terms of training. Fourth is the branding tools. How easy for them as a franchisee it is to access the tools, whether it is business card. Smallest thing make huge difference in a franchising brand. Giving an importance to smaller details, finer details makes a huge difference. And having an access to those branding tools ensures that the end consumer experience is standardized, uniform across the stores, across the brands. This is an interesting one, communications. Now, what process you could have for communications? Now, you could have a brand, like if it is a 5-year-old brand, you would have franchisees who have taken initial ones, who are in the 5 years with you as a franchisee, or someone who has just joined you as a franchisee. You can't have the same communication going for a 1-year franchisee and a 5-year franchisee. You may have a different style, different way of communicating, different challenges. So having communication, a process for your communications to your franchisees at different levels is so important. Most of the franchisees are not able to scale after like say 50, 100 stores is because they are trying to cater to all franchisees in the same way as they have been communicating to their first franchisee or the last franchisee. So having a communication process, there is a cadence. If you set the right process and cadence for this, you will be able to better connect with your franchisees and serve the franchisees in a way where they are able to give standardized quality. Change management. These may be, change management is something where look, feel, appeal, or a new technology coming in. As we're talking about, technology is the key, and the rate at which things are changing today, we don't know. It's such an uncertain world, and use of technology is changing so rapidly, and which ensures that there is a constant change as well. and that creates a challenge for scalability and reproducibility. So having a set process for change management as a franchisor uh, makes a huge difference, ensuring that the franchisees are very much aligned with the times it is in, and ensuring that there is a standardization and reproducibility across the system. So I just want to end my conversation with today is our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. So you just need to take one more time, and no matter what stage you are, whether you are at just starting your franchising journey or as a franchisee or a franchisor, just take one step at a time, and obviously don't give up. It's a marathon, as I started with. It's not a sprint. So consider that and then move on. So with that, I wish you all the best to have a wonderful journey in building a legacy franchise brand times to come. So if you have any great learnings out of the first one was purpose, second one was people, and the last one was process. So if you had great takeaways in the last 40 minutes, please do tap in. And one takeaway which you're going to take away and you're going to implement, that's the key, right? Not just taking away on a Sunday afternoon and just keeping it in one of the books or a paper. Go and implement. Wish you the best.
Thank you so much, sir. It is not just for the sake of saying, but it was really very well structured lecture. I mean, you really very well covered the most complex topics, I believe, in a very simple and lucid way. Even for a layman like me, it was really, it was quite easy to understand. So that's really appreciative. Sir, I would just ask, as a brand owner, if I am to search for a franchisee, though you mentioned number of characteristics or key elements to be considered, what is the main thing that you just can't get away with, like ये तो होना ही चाहिए एक franchisee में, तो वो क्या चीज आपको लगती है? What is the most important thing when you select a franchisee?
So one thing which I would say again, if you're just starting off in your franchising journey as a brand and initial stages, it's the passion, the same passion what you carry for your brand in starting. Your franchisee should be like a partner. He's almost like a partner, right? The franchisor and a franchisee relationship is like a partnership thing. So they should be equally passionate, committed as you are for you and your brand. I think that is one of the key elements in that initial phase. But if you are at a 50, 100, you've already opened like having 50 franchisees and you moved ahead, then I think the important element which I'll be looking is the HR and whether they are good in recruiting, identifying, training, onboarding new people in the team, and the HR, and the second is their local sphere of knowledge and their influence in the local market where they are. These are two things which I will see once it picks up. But the first one is passion for sure.
Right, sir. Sir, a question is coming from Mr. Sanjay Verma. He's asking, what should be an ideal budget for brand expansion? I mean, probably what he means is, of course, while you expand brand, it should not happen that, you spend a lot of money and at the end of the day, you don't even get that brand expansion and also feel pressurized under the debt.
So again, it all depends on what stage you are in of your franchising. Franchising, again, I can go on talking about it for probably next couple of hours. But it's in the franchising life cycle, basically in the initial stages, it's important that you set the structure right, the processes right, the systems right, ensuring that there is a standardization happening, than spending more on the branding in the initial stages. But once you have like say 10, 12, 15 franchisees and you are on a roll started off, I would say anywhere between 3 to 5% of your turnover should be invested in branding.
Excellent. I believe, okay, if I don't think I'm getting any other question. I think one question I'm getting, He's asking, I'll just bring you the meaning that I'm considering, because the question is quite unstructured. I'll probably what he's saying is, if quality is good, sir, and if concept is good or unique, for example, can a franchisor or a brand owner get away with the marketing part for the brand expansion? That is what probably he's asking.
No, you cannot. You need to have branding.
Yes, that's really important.
You just cannot.
And
You can have, if people won't know, resonate.
Sir, I think he's focusing more on marketing part. So can he afford to get away with that part? That is what he's asking.
No. You need to allocate a budget for your marketing branding. If you really are into franchising, then there needs to be a budget allocated. You could grow, but it would take much longer time.
Yes.
Somebody is trained, and word of mouth, you're just relying. And today it's the time of speed, how fast you are, and there's nothing to beat speed now. So you need to be really, really quick and you want to grow faster.
Right. Very true, sir. Of course, like we are living in the digital world, and things through digitalization, social media. So you just can't afford to remain in the vacuum. Yeah. That's
absolutely.
true. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I would like to thank Franchise Insider for giving me this opportunity and connecting and sharing my thoughts and my experience. I look forward to connect with anybody. My email IDs are available with Franchise Insider, and I look forward to connect with brand owners and franchisees. If I can help them to have a purpose-driven business life and also build meaningful relationships, I'm more than happy to connect with you. Thank you so much.